Are video games a true storytelling medium? Obviously. Are they a good storytelling medium? Plenty of people have told very compelling stories through video games. Are they better than other mediums? Now I think I've gotten to an interesting question, actually. Because there are some things that video games do that other genres or other mediums can't. There are obviously some very ham-fisted stories. Most video games really half-ass their stories, let's be real. And most players totally just skip the story. I can't tell you how many times I've just skipped through cutscenes because I don't care, because I'm trying to get to the actual combat loop. And, there's an entire design philosophy that the point of the game is to have fun with the actual mechanics and not to really be like engrossed with the story. Depends on who you ask, depends on the style, depends on what they're going for, yada yada yada. But like typically with narrative games, particularly if they aren't branching, because obviously if you're trying to tell a story where the players' interactions and choices change the outcome, that's something you can only do in a video game. So it's not even an interesting discussion. That is one way to tell a story. It's a way to get people engrossed, and it's something you can only do in video games. So obviously it's the right way to do it. Duh. But when things are linear stories, say the entire Final Fantasy franchise, I actually got really annoyed with Final Fantasy 15, the road trip, that there just honestly wasn't enough to do before the ending, which I don't want to spoil, but like, there's no playing after the ending. Like, other games will give you, after credit, okay, you can go clean up all your side quests and have a good time. No, Final Fantasy 15 ends. Kind of bugged the shit out of me. And with those kinds of linear games, linear stories at least, I think there is actually typically a strong argument for this would be a more compelling story if it were just a movie. Because, if the player isn't making choices, what's the player really doing? Just playing out convoluted QuickTime events to get the plot to progress, the little animated puppets say the words? I think there is one exception. I've at least identified one type of exception where the fact that it is a video game actively improves the story. That's because I've just spent the last 2 weeks, roughly, completely addicted to Hades by Supergiant Games, which is the godlike, roguelike, or whatever people want to call it. It was incredibly popular for good reason. I'm late to the party. It's been on my radar for ages, and I finally got around to it because I've been gaming lately. I've been looking for stuff to stream. Which, by the way, you should drop a subscribe if you want to see me stream various old video games. Anyways, Hades is a roguelike video game, which, if you're not familiar with what that means, it means like it is designed for you to start from nothing, die, challenge it, die, lose, reset, and then try to beat the challenge again. And this particular one is a series of top-down combat rooms where you're breaking out of Tartarus, Asphodel, Elysium, and then the Minotaur's Labyrinth, and then you get if you pull that off, you get out to Greece. Because you are Zagreus, the son of Hades, trying to break out to find his missing mother, and there is a whole plot line about that, and that's... For the record, I stopped at the main plot line. If there's more, don't sue me. Tell me about it in the comments. The story is linear. Every time you successfully break out, you get more story. It's not break out once and you're done, because you actually just get told. You basically just get tempted with, oh, there actually is a story here. It's not just a pubescent boy rebelling against his father, and then you have to do it again. And again, and again, and again, and again. And it takes some like 10 attempts to get the main quest ending, and then there's more beyond that. Keep going. Raise that heat gauge. You don't really... Your actions, as far as I could tell, don't change the amount that you get... The amount that the story progresses each time you successfully escape. Now, if you're bad at the game and you keep losing, you can progress some stuff on the side, but even then, like... Developing your relationship with Meg is just how many times do you see her? Do you interact with her? Do you give her the consumables? Yada yada. And that in itself is linear, and it's just not directly tied to the main plot line. Linear. You don't really have a choice in that. You can't change how these things go, and yet it works. And in my opinion, that is because the game directly reinforces one of the main emotional elements of the story, which is struggle. It is, you are actually playing out this almost futile struggle in order to get answers, closure, reunite his family, and so on, against near insurmountable odds, uncaring odds, where you just keep getting thrown back to the beginning. But you keep getting back up. You keep going back again. You keep trying again and again and again and again and again. Even when it comes right down to punching Hades, Lord of Hell, I guess, in the face. And then you do it, and you get the story to progress, and it works. It works because you, the person consuming the story by playing the game, are actually in an exact emotional beat with the character who the story is happening to, let's say. And if you were to try to write a story about repetitive, brutal struggle like that in any other format, I think it would be considered boring. Because, imagine a story where you have to keep reading a chapter, and when you start the chapter, you don't actually know if the character is going to get out or if you're going to end on page 5 and have to go back to the very beginning with the exact same struggle again, and it's going to feel like a dice roll, and at some point, the author just decides that this is the time that he wins. But in a video game, it's your skill that decides if you win that time. And obviously, you get level ups and power ups and fountains of youth and but if it's in a static medium, the reader, the viewer, the consumer is going to just feel like they are waiting for the creator to allow something to happen, rather than struggling themselves and actually earning progress. That, I think, is, even though it's a linear story, is something that is directly enhanced by the fact that it is a story being told as a video game where you are playing it. And obviously it helps that the combat loop is really fun. I think this is about as good as it gets for, top-down isometric combat stuff. Maybe there are some improvements. I've got Hades 2 wish list and all that, and I'll play that when it comes out. Whatever. But this is something that storytellers, writers, comic creators, movie animators, you name it all, you have to think about how the medium that is carrying the story impacts the story, because this Hades story can only be done well as a video game. I don't think it is possible to tell this story enjoyably as a book. Obviously, you can literally adapt it back into a book. You'd probably have to liberally time skip, though, and just be like, oh, well, it took 32 attempts for him to finally break out of Asphodel again, and then, whoa, too bad, he's in Elysium now, or whatever. For the record, it did not take me 32 attempts. Different mediums, whether it be graphic novels, prose novels, short animations, audio dramas, live-action plays, video games, visual novels, augmented reality games, internet conspiracy memes, you name it, they all actually interact with the consumer slightly differently. And I personally think that there is a whole world of slightly interactive stories that can be explored that probably very close to nobody has actually started doing. Like, imagine a story that is mostly told through expanding and exploring a wiki or something, where as something is happening, perhaps even in real time, things are getting updated and explained. You can unravel a mystery by going through a wiki that is getting updated without anyone being directly alerted or something. Just as an example of a type of ARG, right? Given all the technology available, I think that there are huge frontiers available that are just literally being blocked by the sheer effort of creation, but not actually existing technology. Because obviously there's nothing novel about the programming in Hades. It's actually an old genre that they just did really well. But even then, like, Supergiant Games is a big company with a lot of employees and a lot of talent, a lot of experience. This was not their first game. And it's something that's just completely out of reach of, say, some dude in a basement with a bit of passion trying to do it themselves. I could not possibly make a video game the quality of Hades by myself. I could not fund it. I could not market it. I could not do all of it by myself. Impossible. But if such an engine were to become simple, these things really could be made modular. And I think that if you know where to look, that's probably already happening. And the effort to creation is going to be coming down and down and down and down. You're going to see a lot more novel stories that take advantage of the nature of the medium being used. And I think we're going to see in the future, particularly like ARGs, got insanely popular because of people like MatPat on Game Theorists. For the past 10 years at this point, companies and groups have been mixing things up and sometimes going very badly. I'm not game theories. I'm not turning my channel into that. But I'm optimistic for the future. I think that if you do a studied, careful analysis of what's out there, you're going to notice that there are certain breakthroughs happening, even in areas that people think is stale and played out. But until then, I really liked Hades, and I just spent, for the amount of time I spent on it, I want to make a video about it because I was playing Hades instead of reading books. Like and subscribe. Buy my book too. Link is in the description, or join the book club. Peace.